Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another beautiful morning. We are on day 9 of my parenting challenge, and we're still in part 2 where we are working on building our relationship with our kids. Now, I just wanted to start off by talking about that challenge we had a few days ago where I said no nagging, no corrective feedback, as best as you can. And a lot of parents, when I first did it, I struggled. The first few days were very, very hard. I felt a lot of anger at the end of the day, but it did get easier with time. Now, if it's just too hard and you're finding that you're just making matters worse and you're blowing up at your kids and you're feeling like a doormat and you're feeling like a maid, it's okay. You don't have to take that challenge, and certainly not for a full week. Maybe you're just trying small times between 4 and 4:30. I'm not going to give corrective feedback. The focus of that exercise is not hoping that our kids will just fall into place and cooperate. The whole point of that exercise is to establish that relationship with our kids, to get out of the routine and the rut of always nagging and nagging and nagging and nagging, and your kids always seeing you as the master nagger. The only purpose is to build your relationship and break that pattern. So no, there's no teaching, there's no follow through. The whole week that I had first done it, I just knew I was doing my kids' chores. I just knew I was picking up that slack so I could create that space, create that break. If you're not okay with that, then I would suggest maybe don't try that one. Or like I said, just the short period of time. So it's just creating that space. So I know it's hard. If you want to stick with it though, keep that in the back of your mind. The purpose of not nagging is to build on the relationship. And so, you know what? I'm going to do their chores this week. It will come. I'm not telling you to let them get away with everything. We will be working on and slowly teaching them the skills and building up our toolbox as well as parents. Okay, so that's that challenge of the nagging and feedback, because I know it's hard. For today, though, we're still working on building on that relationship for sure. And we're still working on specifically listening and communicating effectively. This is the most important skill that you can develop as a parent, but it's actually a skill that will work in all of your relationships. Today, we're going to review helpful versus unhelpful ways of communicating. We already talked about the most helpful ways to communicate. So creating that space and listening, validating our kids' thoughts and feelings. Those are helpful. That's really it. That's all you need to do. You know if you're being helpful if the fight kind of dwindles. You're taking the fight out of the fight. If the behaviors start to decrease and your kids are kind of opening up to you. You know you're being unhelpful when you get eye rolls or stomping off or door slams or behaviors escalate. So those are the things that we can do to create the space. There's also nonverbal things that we need to do. So yes, there's picking up on their nonverbals. Their words might say, I'm not frustrated, but their body is telling you everything that they're frustrated. Similarly, we need to give them nonverbals to show them we are creating the space, that we are interested in what they have to say. So we are putting down our phones. We are giving our kids eye contact. We're getting down on their level. We're relaxed in our body. We might actually be leaning forward. We're engaged. There's those things that we can be doing. Now, I know I've mentioned before, there's things that we do that are very unhelpful as parents. Obvious ones are the blaming and nagging and criticizing and jumping in and interrupting, all of those types of things. But there's other times where we actually think that we're being helpful and we're not. And that's usually when we're trying to reassure, no, kiddo, I do love you. Or we're trying to fix the problem, or we're trying to give advice. Those things are typically not helpful unless they ask for it. So my challenge for today is to analyze whether or not we are communicating effectively with our kids. Today's worksheets, I have examples of communication errors that we can go through. So for example, if your child comes to you and says, you're being so unfair, and you respond by saying, well, I wouldn't have to be unfair if you just did what I asked you to do in the first place. Right? Those are lots of communication errors. We're blaming, we're diverting, we're being defensive, right? There's things that we're doing to try to teach a lesson, but we're just making the situation worse. So hopefully you've had a chance to record a few exchanges of what your children said and what you said in response. Using that worksheet, that you had done, and then today's worksheet with the communication errors, you can start going through and seeing, am I validating my kids? Am I listening to what they have to say? Am I trying to understand their perspective? That's helpful. Or am I reverting to one of these communication errors? Like I said, you will know if it's helpful or not just in the response that you're getting from yourself. Are you getting more angry? Or are they getting more angry or upset? Now, this exercise is not meant to make you feel bad or to point out your errors, right? We all do these things. The point of it is to raise our awareness. If we are not aware of how we're interacting with our kids, we're not going to get out of that pattern, that dance that we're in with our kids all the time, and we're just going to keep falling into the same traps over and over and over and over again. But if you've been listening, if you've been validating and recording, you will see, hey, I've actually been doing these things. I am making a change. Small changes that take time, but over time, it will turn things around. If you haven't recorded any of your exchanges, that's okay. Do so today. Just practice your listening, recording what your kids say and what I've said. Am I being helpful? Am I not being helpful? And again, that's just developing that awareness, because once you master this, I promise everything else will be easy. And once we start getting into those really tricky behaviors in the next week or so, all of these pieces will start falling into place. Now, many parents do find when they start to evaluate, most of their interactions are the nagging or scolding or lecturing or all of those types of things. None of those are actually communicating with our kids. We're actually just talking to our kids, right? And then our kids tune out, we get the eye roll, all of those types of things, and it's not helping our relationship at all. So if you think of your friends, if you are always criticizing them or questioning them, or, we wouldn't be friends for very long, right? We usually commiserate with them and we support them. And if they want advice, we'll give it. Sometimes we jump in with advice and they don't want it. But generally, we got to think of what's helpful in other relationships and what's helpful for you. So for today, go practice. Continue practicing that listening and analyze your communication patterns. Let me know if you have questions. Caroline, I'm not sure if this is helpful. I thought it was, but it didn't work out. I'm happy to coach you through any of those things. So let me know if you do have questions, and we are going to build on this. I promise we'll get there. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.